Up next, we have Kyle Becker. Kyle is a design strategist, and we are so lucky that he is also a CRADL team member. He is experienced in evaluating and designing digital financial products in all around the world, including Myanmar, Rwanda, Nigeria, and Kenya, and Mexico. And his presentation, I don't know if you've had the experience where you go up to a door and it's a pull door and you push and you're like, God, why can't I get in? That's how everything in Web3 kind of feels right now. And the presentation is to explain how we can make Web3 usable. Please welcome me and join me in welcoming him to the stage.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, so thank you so much. And I just want to say it's cool to hear Josh speak, but it's actually really inspiring to hear about Sandra. Because it's one of those examples of something that definitely me sitting in New York where I live, I could never imagine what life is like for someone like Sandra. But there's probably people all around her, and there's probably people all around participating in this hackathon that see a million different opportunities for stuff like this. So as she mentioned, my name is Kyle Becker. I'm a design researcher and strategist, which means I spend a lot of time thinking about how normal people, everyday people, actually adopt new technologies and what the process is like to get, a new technology into the hand of users who will actually be able to use it. That's why I was so excited to join CRADL, which is an organization really devoted to just that. The exciting part is that it really is a critical time in the crypto industry. Obviously, there's been some amazing technological innovations that have happened, but in my opinion, the biggest challenges are actually still ahead of us. So this is a traditional segmentation of how people usually think about different users and how they adopt new technologies. We call this the adoption curve because really the biggest part of this curve is majority users. It's not the early adopters, which probably make up most of us here in this room. The next big step for crypto is trying to figure out how we can create solutions that's going to appeal to people who are not just interested in the newest tech thing for the purposes of tech, but are actually interested in a very specific problem that they have to solve, and us being able to give them something that they'll actually be able to understand, use, and implement in an easy-to-use way. So if there's one thing that you take away from what I'm going to say today, it's this. What got us here to early adopters is not going to get us to where we're trying to go, which is mass adoption of people all around the world. So CRADL is obviously thinking about this in a number of different ways. And one of the things that we started to do here a few months ago was what we call a heuristic analysis as designers, which is looking at screens and looking at interfaces and seeing what's going right, what's going wrong, what are some things that need to change, are there some patterns. We're going to publish a really long report on this later, but I'm going to hit a few points right now. So what did we learn? First, we learned visual design is actually pretty good. Lots of people are hiring really talented graphic designers. Things look nice. They're pretty well differentiated, at least for several of the apps that we were looking at. Second, when it gets into what I would call tactical UI design, is there password validation, all these kind of stuff, it's also going pretty well. These are the kind of things where you can look at some Medium articles and find some best practices and implement them in your front end, and it's probably going to work out. But what I really want to stress is that UX, user experience, is a lot more than just UI, user interface design. Best practices in UI will only take you so far. I actually do think that the industry is getting pretty good at making really pretty apps, but the front end is just the front end. When we talk about infrastructure, a lot of the issues that we see with usability is really what those front ends are built on. If you don't have your infrastructure right, it's impossible to make a good user experience in an app. What are some of the other things that we saw? First, I don't know about all of you guys. Usually I'm only transacting in one or maybe two currencies at a time. But a lot of the interfaces that we looked at, there's literally hundreds of currencies that are available to people, and they all kind of seem like they're the same, which is kind of an odd thing for somebody stepping into a new space, especially with something as scary as dealing with money. Second, we've started to notice that people are starting to adopt sort of in-app, ways to learn about cryptocurrency. But there's still a little ways to go in this. People aren't necessarily yet thinking about what users need to know to accomplish an action they need to do. When I think about a marketplace for blockchain-based GPU processing, I'm sure that makes a lot of sense to a lot of us here in this room and a lot of us listening around. But my mom wouldn't be able to understand this, neither would any of the people I was talking to last week in Rwanda. We really need to focus on in-app message that will help people understand what this is and how I can use it for my real day-to-day needs. And last, frankly, it's still really easy in crypto to just lose all your money. It seems like this is in the headlines a lot. And while I don't think we should focus necessarily on headlines all the time, our future users are also seeing these headlines and hopefully not, but probably making some of these mistakes. Nobody's going to buy into a system where you can potentially lose everything. So I just want to mention 3 things to keep in mind for right now in closing for today. And then obviously, this is going to be a conversation we'll be having for several months. The first is transparency does not necessarily equal trust. I've seen a lot of things called transparent in crypto. A lot of us know what this means. We know how the blockchain works and all this kind of stuff. But to be perfectly honest, my mom has been using fiat for decades, and she doesn't know anything about how automated clearinghouse works. And she's never needed to, and still she's trusted in that system. So we need to really start thinking about other mechanisms of trust. What does authority mean in trust? What does word of mouth mean in trust? What does one's private experience mean with trust? We need to expand the conversation on trust itself. We need to make sure that there's not landmines. There needs to be no way in some type of front-end application for someone to make a huge mistake for which there's no going back. This is fine for early adoption users who are just trying to see what the potential technology is, but it's not going to work for mass market adoption. And then last, less is more. So this is one of the apps that we looked at. Send money across the world instantly. I know exactly what this is. This app doesn't do very much, but it's very easy to understand exactly what that value proposition is. And as you go through the app, it continues to be minimal. We don't charge fees. I can understand that. This is a home screen. There's not much on it, but man, it's easy to use, and the UI is pointing the user to exactly what they do to accomplish the promise that this app is making. So I just want to close by saying that I'm super inspired by this industry. I know of a lot of problems in the world. I know that the people participating in this hackathon know about them too. There's a lot of opportunity that we have to make meaningful differences in the lives of billions of people. But remember, what got us here to this conference today is not going to get us to where we're going. Specifically, focusing on the tech and learning the tech, yeah, we should know about this as builders, but this is not what's going to take us to the next level. If you're somebody who knows a lot about the context of a problem, you're exactly who should be participating in this hackathon with the people who know everything about the tech. And if you know everything about the tech and you think that you have a great idea, make sure you're investing a lot of time in understanding things through the eyes of your user. That's the only way you'll be able to build something that people will actually be able to adopt. So thank you so much for your time today. Definitely keep in touch. This is our CRADL Twitter. We'll be coming out probably in a month or 2 with kind of a much more robust report. I have a draft that's over 100 pages, so I need to get that into something a little bit more manageable and usable. But definitely keep in touch, and I look forward to seeing everything that everyone creates these next few months. Thank you.